Konnichiwa, and welcome to Blizzard Brains, the first episode. I am Vince.
And I am Marcus.
And this is Blizzard Brains, the Godzilla Rewatching Podcast. It's a show where we watch them all, every single one, even the one from 98, which we don't talk about. We're going to watch them all, and we're going to review them. Like I said, I'm Vince. I've seen most, if not all of them, and I love them. I grew up with them. And Marcus...
I've seen none of them. In fact, this is the first one I've seen, except the one that we don't talk about, because we don't talk about it.
You have seen that?
That's the only one I've seen.
Did you see it in the theater?
Yeah. I really love Matthew Broderick. I don't know why.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Was he ever on Frasier?
Probably. I don't know. I'm not super familiar with Frasier. I think my love affair with Matthew Broderick started when he played Inspector Gadget, which sucked, and I didn't like as a kid, but I still loved Inspector Gadget, the character, so...
Brown bricks.
But he redeemed himself because he was in The Producers, and then also in the movie, The Producers.
Yeah.
So, you know, he's got that Gene Wilder thing going for him. Mm-hmm. Not really.
Vince Zilla here. Real quick, I just wanted to thank a few people. We have to thank our Patreon. Our Patreon allows us to do projects like this, allows us to have fun and try new stuff, new shows. We can do side projects. We can try out some new things. Few people that we have to thank. First, from the top, our patron, we have to thank Noah. Thank you, Noah. We also have to thank Gage, but we have to thank him twice. Once for the Patreon and one for the Discord. He supports the Discord, so we can do stuff like streaming, and we can have game nights and do a bunch of other fun stuff. So thank you, Gage, twice. We have to thank Jordan with a Y. Thank you, Jordan with a Y. And we also have to thank Danny. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Really, really appreciate you. Now let's get back on into the show.
Hey, hi. Our intro music is by Vigil Beats. In the description below, there's going to be a link to his band lab and his Instagram. You should go ahead and check him out because dude makes nothing but straight heat. And I thank you so much for giving us Wing Clipper as our intro song. All right, back on in to the episode. Ba-da-ba, ba-da-boo, skibbity-bop, skibbity-coo.
But this movie,
Did you like it? Before we even say anything, did you like it?
Yes, I did thoroughly enjoy this movie. I do have a lot of questions about this movie.
Do you have any questions that aren't spoiler related?
See, I can't answer that because I don't know what the answers to those questions are.
I see. I just think we should talk about it before we get into the whole spoiler discussion.
Yeah, fair. Absolutely fair. Let's see if I can think of anything. So a detail I noticed, I don't know if this is relevant to anything other than I just thought it was weird, in the opening scene, or not the opening scene, but like the first, like, hey, something's weird, we're in a disaster movie. A black and white disaster movie, by the way, which moved really well. So something I noticed, when they're in like the panic room and they're trying to figure out what's going on, and the term giant lizard hasn't even been mentioned yet, the map of Japan is in English.
Is it? I didn't notice that.
Yeah. It seemed very strange that would be a thing. Like, it's a map of Japan that's been tilted, what is that, 45 degrees? So that...
Are you talking about the meeting? Is this after the island?
No, this is when the ships is like...
Okay.
Yeah. They're like the shipping company headquarters, I guess. With my favorite little old man of the many little old men that are in this movie, is, I believe he's the owner of this company, is like there with his little fan and his little mustache. But yeah, the huge fucking map, and all the squares are turned so they're diamonds, and it just says Japan, and like you can see.
Does it say Japan or Nippon?
It says Japan.
Really?
legit, it says Japan.
I didn't notice this. Do you know what that boat in the beginning of the movie is a reference to?
No.
One of the biggest things that was, and I'm it's one or the other, and I think it's before World War II happened, in the Bikini Atoll, when the US was testing nuclear devices there, there was a ship called the Lucky Dragon number 5. And in that scene where the ship goes down, one or all of the life preservers all say number 5 on them, and it's a direct reference to this historical event. It's one of the main things that inspired the creation of Godzilla. And they didn't know that nuclear weapons were being tested there, and it was killing most of the tuna. Oh. And a lot of the bruises and like markings that the people had on them are the radiation. It was supposed to be like the radiation effects that the people that were fishing on that boat actually went through. Because they had gone through those effects, because the US was bombing that area to test nuclear weapons, most of the tuna was dead. And I don't know the year, and I'm sorry that I don't know the year, but it was sometime before World War II, Japan went through a massive tuna shortage. Like a fish shortage in general because of that area. It was one of the things that was like made Japan weary of nuclear power to begin with.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
These I have a write-up that I'll go into in every episode to kind of surmise the movie and the feel of it, the tone. I'll go through a write-up, and I have it next to me here.
That's good.
But a big thing with this was kind of, it's almost like a propaganda movie, which I don't know how well that came off for you, kind of going into it blind. What?
I mean, yeah, no, it definitely spoke to the evils of radiation and nuclear power, and also the dangers of unchecked power.
Yeah.
Fucking Oppenheimer was a character in all but name. So,
yes, and that's something that like they say without saying. There's a lot of great visual aspects, and we had a conversation before we started recording about practical effects. Once we get into the spoiler discussion, I want to talk about practical effects for fucking an hour and a half, because this is the first kaiju movie. Like this is the first.
Oh, there was no large beastie movie prior?
I Googled when I was doing the write-up, what is the first kaiju movie? It said this was the first. Awesome. There could have been another one somewhere, but this is, like, America had Ray Harryhausen. The movie, obviously, is very much inspired by, like, 10,000 Leagues, with a giant squid, and the what's the Ray Harryhausen movie I have? I have, like a 2-pack Blu-ray of his movies. One is, like, It Came from 10,000 Depths or something.
Oh my
it was
God.
That era where like all the movies kind of had the same name in like the 30s.
Yeah, the naming conventions of old Hollywood are some of my favorite naming conventions.
Yeah. The Purple Rose of Cairo was a movie about that era, and it was made in like the 80s. I could talk about that movie for hours too. But
that's a different episode.
Yeah. This apparently is the first kaiju. They're in 1950. If it isn't 54, there's a movie in America called Them. And Them is about giant ants that are irradiated in the desert, like in the Mojave. I guess the Mojave Desert. I'm not sure what desert it was that we were bombing to test nuclear weapons in the U.S.
Yes.
Test sites that were bombing, and these ants were growing into these 50, 60-foot giant monsters, which on Atomic Radio Hour, we actually did a movie review for, Olive and myself, and one of the biggest things that I got from this was like, oh shit, I think it came out in 56, the movie, and Godzilla came out in 54, but so we keep referring to it as Godzilla. This movie's real technical name is Gojira, and yes. I'll probably be bouncing back and forth between names, but for simplicity's sake, we're going to be talking about both the American version and the Japanese version. I might refer to it as Gojira King of the Monsters, because when it was brought to America, it was referred to as Godzilla King of the Monsters. So I'll just, like, even the title of the video is probably going to be Gojira King of the Monsters.
Yes. I mean, we could title it Gojira versus Godzilla.
We could, since we're going to talk more about Gojira, and because I know you didn't watch the American version, right?
Correct, but all the subtitles had Godzilla.
Yes. If you were watching the Criterion version, because I sent you a link to it, the version I have is the Godzilla collection from '06. I bought this at a convention. I saw it and I was like, I'm getting this.
Nice.
It's a bunch of them. It's not all of the originals because Godzilla vs. King Kong is not on here, but I think it's everything minus that one of the Showa era. This is the Showa era of Godzilla movies. I forget what the point I was getting at before I went on 4 tangents. Okay, so this is the first like giant monster destroying a city, and I think that might be the definition because in them the giant ants kind of go into the LA River, but they don't really destroy anything. There's the potential of them to destroy. They destroy a boat. There's the potential and a mobile home. There's the potential, but they don't destroy anything on a large scale.
Yes,
and I don't think that's spoiling anything because that's a Godzilla thing. It's like a staple of what he does.
Wait, Godzilla destroys things?
Just relationships.
I watched an entirely different movie. He built a hospital. He donated a lot to charity.
The Red Cross?
Yeah. No, he killed the Red Cross and started one that isn't corrupt.
Oh, are they?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they're...
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. They were in hot water very recently for being a nonprofit and having a lot of their executives take in, like, 3-figure salaries.
You want to hear something really funny about them?
Sure.
Wait, 3-figure?
Sorry, 6-figure.
Oh.
I was...
Wow.
The 3...
Yeah,
the
I know
was,
what you meant.
Yeah.
I know what you meant. Those 3 zeros.
Yeah.
Gojira King of the Monsters is directed by Ishiro Honda. It's produced by, and these names are all in Japanese, so I will butcher them for not only this episode, for most of the series.
It's true. We're American, and we have not had enough practice pronouncing Japanese things.
Yeah.
I am sorry. We'll work on it.
Producer Tomoyuki Tanaka. It's written by Shigeru Kamaya, Teiko Matora, and Ishiro Honda. Music by Ikure Ikofube, which, oh my god, is the soundtrack in this movie fantastic.
There is a lot about this movie that is super fantastic. The music is definitely one of them.
It had a budget of 64 million yen. Now, I don't know what that is in 1954. This movie, I think, may have even started its production about 5 years earlier. So I don't know where the money starts falling into place, but it's about 607.3 thousand US dollars today. Back then it made 152,140 million. That makes sense, right? No.
Yeah, you want to say the million before you say the thousand.
Sorry. Dyslexia. 152,140,000 yen, or about 1.4 million US. So a 600,000 movie made 1.4. When it came to the US, it made about 2 million, but it was considered a flop. In the sense that they didn't see it as a good movie. In 2004, it got a re-release and made $400,000. And then in 2014, it got another re-release and made $150,000. I don't know what this legacy amount of money that it's made, but it is a huge cultural, cinematic. This is a movie that I think is vastly important, not just for Japan, but I think for the US as well in the terms of cinema, because
absolutely.
It's entertaining. It has a message. It is the first of its kind. This is, in a way, I think should be up there with Citizen Kane. And you can say whatever you want about Citizen Kane. I get that it's like cool to hate Citizen Kane nowadays, but this is a movie that is.
It's cool to hate Citizen Kane?
Since when? A lot of people shit on Citizen Kane.
Why?
I don't know. I've never seen it. Like, I know what happens because it's a 100-year-old movie, but a lot of people shit on Citizen Kane.
It's the entire movie is a middle finger to one of the biggest capitalists in the country at the time.
Yeah.
Like, what is what is there to hate?
And it's way ahead of its time when it comes to cinematography and the way they frame things and XYZ. I'm with you. I don't know. I just know it's trendy to hate on it.
Hate isn't funny, kids. Well, no, hate is really funny, but it's not interesting.
Yeah. So here's my summarization of the movie in a sense. I don't really get too into the movie itself, but I kind of get into the mindset and the framing and where Japan was, where the US was. And I have written here, most Americans remember where they were on 9/11. And even if you don't because you were too young, you definitely know the impact it had on the US. Now, as horrific as an event, imagine two major cities being bombed with nuclear weapons. Imagine what would change and how life would continue. On August 6th, 1945 and August 9th of the same year, the US bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki, changing and shaping the future of the country. Gojira is a direct reflection of that. A movie that is anti-war, anti-nuclear, and anti-repeating history. Gojira is born out of fear, born out of what it looks like to look God in the face and laugh. In 1954, Toho unleashed Gojira onto the world 9 years after the nuclear attacks and kicking off the Showa era of the films. With an understanding of what nuclear power has the capability to do, some characters can be seen wading in pools of highly irradiated waters and not panicking because it's all being done in the name of science. Gojira's own head was modeled to look like a mushroom cloud. Gojira's own head was modeled to look much like a mushroom cloud, to be a physical representation of the bombs themselves. When the big lizard was brought to our own backyards, it didn't do as well and had almost a completely different plot. Raymond Burr was cast to play a reporter named Steve Martin, going from Cairo and making a pit stop in Tokyo when Gojira himself attacks. The Gaijin re-edit of Gojira then removed all mentions of bomb shelters and other references to nuclear bombs. Goji's own name being based on gorilla and whale. And when the culmination came together, Gojira was born at 50 meters and 20,000 metric tons. Gojira shows not only what it would be like to survive a nuclear attack, but also opened up the next 65 years of kaiju movies. And I hope that's a decent summarization of an idea of what the film actually kind of stands for. They get a lot into what it is like to live in a post-nuclear world. There are a lot of great shots from Hiroshima after the bombing. There's a building that is still there that the government of Japan has commissioned pillars to keep it up so people can see. This year I had planned to go to Japan because of COVID-19. Prices on flights were so low, and I thought we'd be out of this by now, but we're not. And
surprise.
Yeah, and I was supposed to go at the end of October, and my entire plan consisted of me going from Tokyo all the way west to Hiroshima to kind of see this other side of World War II. My great-grandmother, and I think I've told this story on Atomic Radio Hour before. My great-grandmother, when I was lucky enough to meet her and to grow up with her, but I was too young to appreciate the knowledge that she had of an era that is long gone now. And I remember playing Sonic the Hedgehog and beating it. And at the end of it, the name starts scrolling, and she goes, "Look at these fucking Japanese." And I remember going, "Whoa. Grandma, what the fuck?" Like, and I went to my mom and I was like, "Hey, Mom, Grandma's a racist." And she was like, "What are you talking about?" And I told her, like, I'm playing this game, and she goes, No. She's like, she's not racist. She's of her time. She had friends that were at Pearl Harbor when it was bombed. It's one of those things. It's not right, but it's one of those things. And especially coming from an era where information moves slower. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess I can kind of see that.
It's very much the argument you gave me of writers like Dickens of his time seemed very progressive, and now today it's like, whoa, hold on, what, Jim? I'm sorry, who, Jim? Like,
I'm sorry, Mark Twain.
Mark Twain. What did I say?
Dickens.
Sorry, you know what I meant though.
Yeah.
It was one of those. It was just like. It wasn't like if she saw them, she spit on them. It was just like, ugh, like that memory is there. She had friends and family that were at Pearl Harbor that she lost.
Yeah.
My grandma was she was a riveter. She was a seamstress during World War II. Like I wasn't old enough to appreciate that. I didn't get to ask the questions. And it's kind of always loomed in the back of my head of this other part of World War II that they don't really talk about. They don't really talk about the bombings in Japan, and they don't talk about that Hitler invaded Africa. And they don't, I'm upset about that because I recently took my sister took a 23andMe test, and I'm mostly Southern Italian, but I'm a lot Northern African. So something had to happen in World War II. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And it's not even just Northern African, it was Sephardic Jewish Northern African.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, I don't know what's going on, but...
when they say it was a world war...
No, it was a world war.
Yeah, like,
but
America
so many
was
people don't know that Hitler invaded Africa.
Yeah, like, America was mostly in the European arena? What's the term? Not arena.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, that thing. But, like, shit was going on in Africa. Like, it was, the Australians were fighting in Africa, and, like, it was expansive. A lot of shit. A lot of shit went down.
Yeah, exactly. But that's just, it's, the point I'm making is, like, Hiroshima being one of the few places that was attacked by nuclear weapons, I'm making it a point for when I go to Japan to go there. They know the exact spot it hit. The bridge where it hit is still an active bridge today. And for me to be able to stand on that bridge in the approximate spot of where the bomb hit is something that's very important to me that I'll be able to do. And just to be kind of like, here's another example. Growing up, my dad and I were very much into antiques, right? And one day he's calling me as he's coming home from an auction. He's like, "You're never going to guess what I found." And I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Take a while." And I'm guessing, I'm like, cause we did a lot of like Tonka toy stuff, from like the 30s and 40s and 50s. And I'm like, "Oh, this and that." And I said, "Some Batman stuff. Did you find some comics? Did you find some Godzilla stuff?" Cause I dropped my fucking pen. And, he's like, "You're never going to guess." And he comes in the house. He's like, "Close your eyes." And he comes in with a real Nazi uniform. And I like didn't know how to process it at first. And I was like, "Is this real? Like, is this a real, like a monster wore this?" And he's like, "Everything that I know about this is that it's real." And like the first thing I did was try to put the hat on. Like,
oh yeah.
And my mom's like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" I'm like 14, 13, 11 plus 1 years old. And she's like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" I'm like, "This is the closest to World War II I will ever get." Like,
you say that now.
But like back then, it was like I've watched all of these documentaries, I've watched all of these movies, I've played all these video games that take place in World War II, but this is and like we've researched the name that was on the inside of the hat and on the inside of the jacket, and we found the factory in Italy where they were making them.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like, it really kind of made the World War II real, even though I'm not saying it's not real.
Well, yeah.
I'm saying, like, it's when you read about something, you can read about it so much. Like, you could read about doing push-ups all day long, but you're not going to know how to do them or get bigger until you do the push-ups.
Well, yeah. And, like, that's the thing about education, especially in state-funded education, is, like, you can learn about it, you can be told about it, but the way we teach it is as if it's a distant past. Yeah. Like, fucking World War II is older than the statehood of Alaska and Hawaii.
You are correct.
Like,
wow. I never thought of it like that. It's like the 60s, right?
Yeah, 1959, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, 60s.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, well over a decade.
Yeah. So World War II, like, we were fighting that with 48 flags, or 48 stars on the flag.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Like, we're not even flying the same flag that we flew.
Wow, I never thought of it like that. But the point that I'm trying to get at with all of this, bring it back to World War II and bringing it to Godzilla, is that, like, I have a shelf, a bunch of figures of Godzilla right here because of how much I love this big lizard. And
fucking nerd. I love it.
And to my back, I have Fallout stuff. To my right, I have Godzilla. Both things have to do with nuclear weapons. But the point that I'm getting at is, for me to be able to kind of go to, in a weird roundabout way, what is the genesis of Godzilla, to what is the genesis of a lot of people's introduction to the East is Godzilla, like a physical representation. Godzilla is the ambassador of tourism in Japan because most people know of Japan through these films.
Interesting.
So if I can find a picture, I'll put a picture of Godzilla earning his citizenship, which means he can vote in Japan, and apparently that's incredibly hard to obtain. But I'll put a picture on screen if I can, which I should because it was on my Twitter. But
so wait, what you're saying is if I want to vote in Japan, I have to destroy Tokyo?
You have to destroy Tokyo and make a cultural impact for 65 years.
All right, time to get working.
Who was the president during World War II?
Fuck. Eisenhower.
Eisenhower would have been able to vote, but that's a different story. All right, so what I'm getting at is these films are very important to me for multiple reasons, and I think I've kind of droned on enough. I think we should start spoiling the movie.
Holy shit, spoilers. Holy
spoilers
crap.
Right here,
warning.
right now.
Yeah.
I did not say this earlier, but if I'm correct, YouTube has a feature where in the description, if you put a timestamp, it now labels it on the bar.
Oh.
And it should say, like, spoiler-free discussion, write-up, intro, however I'm going to do it, I'm not really sure. And now it should be entering. If I edit this correctly, it should say right now, spoiler discussion. So.
All right. So, spoiler fucking alert, the goddamn lizard dies. Why didn't anyone fucking... No!
Okay. I don't want to spoil anything else, but, like, there's 30-something other movies, so he might come back.
Oh.
But there is a line at the end of the movie that, and I'm awful with names, but the doctor, not Shirazawa, the paleontologist, what's his name?
So I'm going to pause you right there. I just want to qualify. I was so bad at keeping track of whose name was who.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to follow with subtitles and they talked really fast. So I divided them up into hairstyles and general characteristics.
So Mustache Doctor.
Mustache Doctor, yeah, the paleontologist.
Yes, that's the word.
The sad zoologist.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
He says at the end of the movie, if that was the last of his species, we should have studied him. Which I think is a beautiful way to say that, like, just because something's destructive doesn't mean it's awful. Like, we can still learn from it. And
he's the hero of the movie.
More or less.
Everything he said was correct.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, his entire motivation, from what I can tell, was that he wanted to study Gojira specifically to learn how he survived radiation.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I feel like that, given the historical time that this is taking place in, I feel like that's pretty pertinent to Japan. Considering they just had, you know?
Well, different iterations have different reasons of why Godzilla is the way he is. Some say that he's powered by radiation, and that's why he woke up after the bombings. Some say that he was a dormant creature that is there to kind of... I think the villagers of Odo Island kind of look at him as this being that's there to fix what's wrong, in a sense. And he was awoken because of the bombs, and he knew that was something that wasn't natural. And Godzilla's like, fuck around and find out. Like, and that's why he starts destroying the cities, and he's like, maybe we need a reset. I think there's a lot of ways that you can really look at what Goji is doing throughout the entire movie and what his motivations are. Even though he's a big lizard that doesn't speak English.
Or Japanese.
Yes, sorry. But he doesn't speak a common language.
Yes.
There's a bunch of little things throughout the movie that I think is kind of funny looking at it from today's COVID times, where they're like, all right, good. Godzilla's gone. We can go out on the boat and party again. And then it's like, oh my God, no, you can't.
Oh God, I was going to bring that up. But that does actually, real quick, I did have a question about... Yeah. So, paleontologist, sad zoologist,
Dr.
Mustache. Dr. Mustache. Well, there are several... there are several doctors and several mustaches.
Yes.
So,
yeah, you are correct.
yes. So his theory was that Godzilla was sort of encased in a rock bubble underneath the ocean, and that testing nuclear devices cracked that open like an egg and released him and potentially more like him. So
Which would explain every movie after that.
I don't know.
Well,
maybe.
here's the thing.
Did you just spoil them for me, motherfucker?
Well, no, I'm saying in this. No. I'm saying in the sense of there's other monsters that just show up.
Okay. But my question is, how does that relate to Goji being powered by radiation?
Well, there is certain movies that are a direct sequel to this one. There are movies in the series of Godzilla movies that will just come out and be standalone movies. During the end of the Heisei era, I want to say it's the end of the Heisei era, they reboot the series 3 or 4 times in a row. Where it's just a retelling of this, of like, it's the intro story, and then it like goes from there. It's kind of like the Zelda timeline, where there's a movie that's a direct sequel to this one, and then there's a movie that's a direct sequel to this one, and then there's another one, like the new legacy Godzilla movies, the American ones, are in their own timeline.
Oh God. Okay.
So they acknowledge the movies of the past to an extent, but it's their own timeline. So it's kind of like a timeline like 2B or like 2A. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So each movie kind of, and that's the whole thing is like, when you watch the movie and paleontologist mustache doctor is like, if he's like he says something that almost leaves it like a cliffhanger. Today, like you'd expect to see like an after credit scene. Back then, they didn't really think there was going to be a second one, or they didn't have plans to make a second one. It was just, this is what we have to say right now. And I think I've told you this before. I've told anybody who had ever asked me anything about Godzilla, this is the only one you need to watch in Japanese.
Okay.
This is because to compare it to the Raymond Burr version, the version, if you will.
Oh, and I will.
I like that. I kind of like, part of me wants to like that version more because I've seen it more times. Okay. Also, the way the story is set up, it kind of does like a thing where it plays with time, where it starts after the first attack of Godzilla when he's destroying the city, and then kind of goes from there. But there's so many shots where he talks to Emiko and he talks to the paleontologist mustache doctor, and it's just a Japanese actor that they shot from the back that is not the person in the film talking to Raymond Burr's character, Steve fucking Martin, before Steve Martin. And, it kind of has this weird, like, it's fake, like, it's phony, but they also add extra music in, and the extra music they add in is great, but it's also totally out of place. In the sense that, like, the subtleties of the original Japanese version, like, when that mother is crying, going, "We're going to be with your father again soon. Like, we're going to die." You know what I mean? Like, that scene, in the American version, they just play music over it, and you can kind of hear them talking, but they didn't cut it. Like, it would have made more sense to just cut that scene. And they didn't cut that scene. So you just hear music. It might even be Godzilla's theme. But you just hear music and these people talking, but there's no subtitles. So it's not like, oh shit, we got to get out of here. It's just like...
I mean, there was weird localization happening even in the OG Japanese version, though.
What do you mean?
Well, in the very first opening scene, it's a bunch of sailors on a boat, hanging out, playing music. They're not playing Japanese music. It's very Eurocentric, like, shanty shit that they're playing. Huh.
See, when you brought that up before about the map, I don't know why I didn't say this. My first thought was maybe it's like when you're a pilot, you have to learn English.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
You know what I mean? Maybe it's like if you're on the sea, you need to know English enough.
True,
like, but maybe not.
But why would you have that map in your home?
I don't know.
Country?
That was just my first thought.
Yeah.
But also maybe like they're on the sea all the time. Maybe they just like passed along songs to another person. Like,
possible.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I'm sitting here trying to make excuses for a movie that's 65 years old, but still, like,
yeah, definitely something we could look up, I imagine. But
I mean, it doesn't hinder my viewing experience. It's not like it's not a massive plot. Did it really fucking harm you that much?
It was the worst. I stopped watching after I saw that the fucking guitar chords didn't line up, because I know how guitar chords work, clearly.
But what was your favorite part? Spoiler, totally. What was your favorite part of this movie?
Ooh, that's real hard to decide, because like there's a lot of real fun little things that I liked.
Like,
well, for instance, on that small little island.
Oh no.
Yes.
Okay.
Fucking Godzilla turns up in the middle of like a typhoon, huge storm shit, and like houses start rocking, and like in no time, people are running the fuck away, already fucking packed. Like they stay packed, and that continues throughout the entire movie. No one has unpacked their bags. They are ready to fucking go. And
wow, I didn't even notice that. That's
in a moment's notice.
That's really fucking poignant of like, hey, we got nuked. It could fucking happen at any time. Make sure your shit's ready.
Keep a bag. You're running. Like, that was I wouldn't say a fun detail.
Well thought out.
Yeah.
But also, that's one of those details that, like, you know when you're growing up, like, this might be a morbid thing, but, like, do you ever have a friend growing up and, like, they come over your house and your parents, like, don't fight for 2.5 hours, and you're like, wow, your parents really get along. And as a kid, you're just like, yeah, and you walk away, and then you get older, you're like, oh wow, that kid must have been getting fucked up at home. You know what I mean?
Oh.
Like it to me at least plays off as one of those kind of things, as like yeah,
it seems like a really innocent thing until you think about it. Yeah. A little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's something that you would have never seen in an American movie because they never had to live through it, but because these people had to live through I don't want to say a nuclear holocaust, but they had to live through a nuclear attack.
Yeah.
Like that's something that that's a detail that it's real life experience. It's the only way you would have known that is if you lived through that event.
Yeah, absolutely. Like having to run to shelter that quickly, it probably does some shit to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a fun detail that I thoroughly enjoyed. Not in a this makes me happy sort of way, but in a that makes sense. Yeah. I dig that. Though, let's see, what were some other fun? I liked that there was a reporter character that was a through line. Whose name I don't remember, but he had a Mo Howard haircut. Like, he looked like Mo from the Three Stooges.
I didn't notice that.
Oh my god.
Go on?
Go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
Go. No, go.
Oh.
Say words.
No, you fucking... But yeah, that guy... Like, okay, one of the issues I had with this movie was trying to figure out, based on context clues, how people were related to each other, and not necessarily like mother, father, all that bullshit. Like, I know that our main hero, who is coded like the main hero, is engaged to the only woman in the movie of any that's there for more than one scene.
Yeah.
And I know that she's related somehow to Eye Patch McBad Scientist. And I know that she's related to paleontologist, sad zoologist. And then there's Bald Boy. And so I don't understand their family structure.
Yes. And I think that's a cultural thing.
Okay.
But if I'm correct, Mustache Paleontology Zoology Sadman is her father.
Yes.
Bald Boy is her brother who helps out or is from Odo Island in some capacity.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my next question, is like, either that is two different actors who look exactly the same, or the same actor playing two different characters.
I watched the movie three times. I was just watching it again at 1.5 speed to kind of like just bring me up to speed, because I did watch so I watched this one 2.5 times, and I watched the American version once.
Okay. Is he even in the American version?
Yes, briefly.
Okay. Oh, okay. Because like, he has a brother on the island who, like, he's one of the guys who washes up on shore and then dies, I think.
He might be helping the paleontologist. I'm not entirely sure, and it's one of those, I have to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth through the subtitles.
And it is not just explained.
Yeah, and it's also a different time. But if I remember correctly, the soldier guy person that she's like in love with is an arranged marriage. Or maybe this is the American version. In the American version, I think it's an arranged marriage between her and that guy, but she's in love with Serizawa.
Serizawa is Eye Patch?
Eye Patch.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure the Serizawa line shows up in other movies, and that's one of the only reasons why I remember his name.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because in what I gathered from watching this, and like I've seen it one time, and this is like all shooting from the hip, having watched it once, right before we recorded, as a matter of fact, is she is in love with, like, she and Hero Man are in love together. They're about to go on a date to see...
I think his name is Shiro.
Is it?
I think so.
I'm going to call him Hero Man, because he's very clearly coded to be the hero.
There is a thing about him, not to cut you off, I'm sorry, that
go for it.
He got a really, really big head about that when he was cast in the movie. He was like a no-name actor and had like a couple bit parts here and there and got cast, and he kind of walked on set and he's like, I'm the star of the movie. And everyone's like, no, you're not. Godzilla is. And he kind of had to be like put in his place about it.
That's fair. Godzilla is the star of this movie.
Absolutely.
But I'm talking in terms of like, okay, so I
know the terms you're talking about. I'm totally with you.
Yeah. I just remembered something else I really liked about this movie. But either way, from what I gathered from watching it just the one time is, main woman, only woman, is in love with, Hero Man, but was at one point engaged to, Eye Patch Doctor.
Yes.
And then he suffered some accident that gave him an eye patch, and then he became a recluse. To work on pseudoscience. I have so many issues with what he was doing, but I can get to that in a minute. Oh my god.
I don't remember the eye patch being brought up, but I think there was some sort of entanglement between the two of them. In the original script, he was played up as more of an outsider, and I think he was supposed to have a different haircut, and he listened to classic Western music. And it was like a real type of thing. The script was rewritten a couple times, and the original first script had no love triangle, had none of that shit in it whatsoever. It was a giant monster movie.
I mean, I don't typically like love triangles in movies because they're boring, more or less. However, I did, in this particular context, I enjoyed it because it's sort of like, there's a giant monster attacking shit. And I enjoyed the love triangle as sort of like, to me, it read as, all right, so shit's happening, but let's try for some sort of normalcy. Like, let's worry about our lives post this calamity that's happening all around us.
That's a very American thing to do.
I guess.
Like, I'm not trying to make a comparison to it or anything, but like, that's a very like, shit's going wrong. What are we doing tomorrow? Like, are we still going to Applebee's? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's the most like, grandma's in the hospital. I know, but I really need a bloomin' onion. Like,
yeah, right. Like, just some apple pie right now.
Although, like, and maybe that's just because if the Western world was, and this is just an assumption that I'm making, because I think that's neat that you kind of picked that out. Maybe if the Western world is such a huge, it's a huge influence for the rest of the world. Mind you, anime started after World War II. And the first official anime is Astro Boy, which over there is called Mighty Atom. And that's another atomic show. Like it's based in some sort of atomic power type thing. And I know way more fucking shit about the Japanese people than I thought I did. I'm sorry. I don't know what year Astro Boy came out or Mighty Atom came out, but like the reason why it looks the way it does, they said a big influence was Disney. Disney was huge in Japan.
Interesting.
And there's maybe another movie or another animated something or other that is considered like the first, but the first modern anime, like the first Japanese animation, but the first like modern day anime is Astro Boy.
Interesting. You know, you may not know when Astro Boy came out, and I may not know, but I know who knows.
Yeah.
Fucking Google, and I'm going to Google it right now.
Are you?
Oh, yeah. On camera.
Cool. I'm gonna vamp then. This is another thing I like. Okay, what was your problem so much with Serizawa then, with his pseudoscience? Because I kind of think it's interesting that he's developing the oxygen destroyer, which later then kills Godzilla. But I think that's a really interesting thing because the atom bomb destroyed life instantly and vaporized it. But I think because of how the atom bomb is, where it destroys, or the H-bomb, whatever, destroys everything in seconds, in a flash. As soon as the flash is there, it's gone. I think the idea of saying to somebody like, it kills you by taking away the thing you need most to live. You can go for a while without food and water. You can even go for a while without getting a fucking hug. But like,
no, I would die without hugs. So
me too, but I'm saying like,
to answer your question, 1963 is when Astro Boy came out.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, that's much later than I thought.
Yeah, and that's quick Googling. It's possible that it started as like a comic strip first.
Yes.
But the animated series was 1963. And
because manga's older. I know that for certain. Manga's much older.
At some point, maybe not in this particular podcast discussion, I would like someone to tell me the difference between manga and graphic novels, aside from
where it comes from.
Yeah, like,
that's it. Where it comes from, and you read it right to left instead of left to right. That's it.
So, if a graphic novel was written and published in Hebrew in Israel, would that be a graphic novel or a manga?
It might have to do with the art style as well.
Okay. Whatever. Not important right now. I can definitely go find a weeb somewhere and just interrogate them for a minute. But my issue with the pseudoscience, like, I get the narrative that they were trying to go for of just like, this thing destroys you on the basic elements.
Yes.
And like, cool. But the way he explained it, and maybe it's different in the other versions, but matter and energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be changed. And to split... Well, okay, first of all, there's no such thing as an oxygen atom. There's oxygen molecules.
Yes.
Which, like, in the thing, he describes it as it destroys the oxygen atoms. If you were to try and destroy the oxygen, molecules, that would just change it into a different molecule, which would then reincorporate itself and not actually destroy anything. It would just change it. And like, maybe that works like radiation, where it sort of breaks down your cellular structure.
Mm-hmm.
But if we look at it from the idea of it destroys the atom, because it's not an oxygen or any other sort of thing. If it breaks down an atom, that's splitting the atom. So he just made another nuclear bomb.
And I think that's kind of the point. Because there's little things throughout the movie that kind of are supposed to reference and represent man's doing. Like when Dr. Paleontologist, sad zoologist, mustache man, says during the press conference that Godzilla was a dinosaur from 2 million years ago. There were no dinosaurs 2 million years ago, and they thought that that was a subtle little reference to that's when man started, and man is the real monster.
Okay. Well,
so I think that kind of plays into what you're saying about you pretty much just made another atom bomb in a sense. I think that's what it's kind of trying to play into, is that, like, violence begets violence. And even though it's wrong, you and I both know it's wrong. Like, that's why Serizawa kills himself, and he burns the blueprints, because he was making it in silence. And he's like, I don't want this getting out, because we know what the atom bomb could do. Imagine what this could do. This could get rid of oxygen everywhere. It could get rid of all of the fish as we know it. And I'm the only person who knows how to make this. So if he kills Godzilla and gets away with it and survives and leaves, people are going to pressure him, and he was afraid that people would come to him with a lot of money and say, how do we make this, and then buy him out, and he would lose himself and he would become a monster. He would become Godzilla in a sense, and that's why he kills himself, because he knows that's what he has to do to make sure that the temptation never gets to him, because he felt guilt about making the oxygen destroyer.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like, he says so much in the film that in this moment, it's just a destroyer, but it has potential to be something greater, something productive.
Yes.
And like, another one of my favorite things in this movie. So, my favorite character is Mr. Hero Man, because he's the dumbest character in the entire movie. Next to the cops that get their fucking car destroyed.
Oh yeah, they just run out and then just.
Yeah,
we didn't even talk about that yet.
Oh yeah, they're sitting there very calmly listening to the thing, and then all of a sudden, holy shit! Oh my god. Anyway, but somehow Mr. Hero Man is surprised that the scientist who said that he would not be compromised, like, literally said, I don't want my work falling into the wrong hands, and even if I destroy all the notes, plans are still in my head, and they could torture them out of me. I don't know how strong I am. Was surprised when the man killed himself. Like, you didn't see that coming. You're really just shocked that was the outcome.
That really bothered you?
It didn't bother me. I thought it was hilarious. Like, the Mr. Hero Man with the collar and the somehow is an expert diver, and I think works for the Coast Guard. I don't fully understand the structure of how everything worked, because it starts off with him getting a call from the company that he works for, and he's not seen in a uniform until the very end. Whatever. But yeah, he was an idiot. Just pure, simple moron. And I feel like that was very cool. Like, not cool. Very...
relatable?
Yeah. Relatable, and also more that... like, that was a trope. It was a fun re-examining of an old trope of just, this is the hot, hunky dumbass. He's engaged to the only woman.
Yeah.
There is one other woman in this movie that I can think of that isn't the we're going to see dad now. And that was the woman in the courthouse, where they were talking about whether or not they were going to release information. And she was a badass.
Oh, yeah.
So +1 to feminism, I guess. But yeah, no, he was just like the scientist in no uncertain terms said, I don't want my work getting out. I'm going to destroy all my notes, but the only remaining thing that can make this destructive device is in my head. And then, like, they went down in dive suits, which, by the way, if I had access to a dive suit, would be wearing one right now. Those things are awesome. But they went down in dive suits, and, like, oh no, the guy who said that he didn't want his shit to come out has killed himself in a heroic sacrifice. who could have seen this coming?
I didn't expect it, to be completely honest. When the first time I saw it, I was just like, oh.
Oh, really? I
Yeah,
knew he was...
I was also a child, but...
Fair. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I've seen a lot of movies that have come out since Godzilla, but I feel like that was telegraphed at, like, when he agreed to help them, and he started burning his notes. That's when I was like, oh, he's absolutely going to kill himself. Like, I thought that him burning his notes was the understanding of the characters was that he was going to end his life to end Godzilla. And I guess I was wrong. I guess everyone else was just as shocked as Hero Man. But I'm also viewing this like post 9/11, so post optimism.
Okay. Yeah.
Also, I'm realizing now I have a lot of other questions, and we haven't even gotten to talking about the man of the hour.
Yeah, that's what I kind of wanted to transition into next, because we are running a tad long.
I
want to talk about how do you feel about the practical effects, because I think they are fantastic and wonderful, and I love them.
Okay, so the practical effects, as if there was any other option of the day, were fucking on point in this movie. Like, there are points when you can tell that it's a practical effect, like when you can tell it's a miniature.
Yeah.
But there are also other points where the only reason I knew it was a miniature is because I couldn't think of how else they would have done that. Like, that is just how it would have had to have been done.
There's a puppet for a lot of scenes, and then there's the guy in the suit.
I didn't even see the puppet. Like, I just saw it didn't look like a dude in a suit. Like, I wasn't looking for the human shape in Godzilla. I was just looking at a giant lizard. A weirdly shaped lizard, mind you, but still a giant lizard nonetheless. Just attacking a town.
What are your 5 favorite uses of the practical effects in this movie?
My 5 favorite. All right. I really enjoyed the storm that they had on the island.
With the helicopter at the end.
Yes.
That scene takes me out of it a little bit because I can tell that it's a miniature.
See, that's the thing. That was the one where I was like, I can tell this is a miniature, but also, who gives a shit? Like, that
No, absolutely.
Yeah, like, it was fully, for me, anyway, it was fully, they're just trying to tell a story. And not, like, they're not trying to fool me with the special effect. They're not saying, no, this is actually a thing that happened. It's just a great effect. And they did the best they could with that.
So, what else? You have the island.
I have the island. I really liked... oh, man. I'm gonna feel really silly if this wasn't a practical effect, but I really liked the light under the water in the early beginning when the ships were sinking.
Oh, yeah. If I remember correctly, that's 2 shots put on top of each other.
Oh, okay.
So I'll consider a practical effect.
Yeah, if it's done in camera, like...
Yeah, it was 2, like, they turned the opacity down on one and put that on the other one. Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked that effect.
The original script had a bunch more boats sinking as well. But go on.
Fair. Oh, as an aside, there was definitely a boat named Bingo, right? I'm not just making that up.
I'm not sure.
Because I remember seeing it in the fucking...
Yes.
Boat named Bingo. All right. I just had a brain seizure, I guess. Let's see. I don't know, man. Like, I really... I wouldn't say I enjoyed it, but I thought it was really cute. Godzilla's fire breath. Just fucking...
You want to know how that was done?
Was it a fire extinguisher?
Kind of. It was a hose that they put in when it was the puppet doing it, it was a a hose they put in the mouth that they would just then put the special effect on top of.
Okay.
So there was something there to kind of help them animate, I guess, if that's the right word.
Okay, because in the version I watched, it wasn't an effect. It was just like it looked like steam being sprayed out of the puppet mouth.
Huh.
And then shit got started on fire. Like, I fully thought that it was supposed to be ice breath at first.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, I watched the Criterion version. I don't
Mine
know.
technically isn't the Criterion. Mine is a collector edition from fucking
Well,
2006.
I watched the original, only the finest.
This does say on the box, includes the original uncut Godzilla. So I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. It's not a big deal.
Uncut? He's not Jewish?
Wow. Wow. Wow.
You're welcome.
That's the funniest shit I've heard today. I don't know what I'm more upset about, the fact that I didn't see it coming or the fact that I had to think of what a giant uncircumcised Godzilla penis looks like.
And now all of you, dear listeners, have to imagine that as well.
Yeah.
My gift to the world. So do you think we can top giant lizard dick?
I mean, as a practical effect, it'd be nice to see.
I mean,
Nice to see in the sense of like, I want. All right, so my 5 favorite practical
yes,
effects.
please.
The scene when Godzilla first shows up, and you can see like him over the mountain. That's a puppet, and I think that's super, super terrifying. And then right after that, they get an idea of what he looks like, but not how big he is. And then they see from like the other side, they can see the beach, and it's the footprints and the tail dragging behind him as he walks back into the water. That was done by shooting that scene, and they took a piece of glass and painted onto the glass and then put that on top of it.
Oh.
That's a big one. When he's on the radio tower, that remember you were saying that guy looks like one of the Three Stooges on the radio tower?
Yeah.
That scene to me is so intense when the tower falls over, and that's one of the prime examples of you seeing Godzilla's head as a mushroom cloud.
Oh.
That one, it's so striking to me. It sticks out so much to think of like, here's the physical embodiment of an atom bomb going off in front of me, and there's nothing I can do about it, because it's the same thing with like people that are religious that kind of see a religious figure like a god as just this magical sky daddy versus someone who sees it as more of a physical thing, like something that you can and can't touch. It makes it easy for me. I've noticed it makes it easier for humans to interpret that. And to me, that's a really, really powerful moment. It's actually something I'd want to get like a poster of this guy who's like cowering in fear as he looks up at essentially a mushroom cloud. When Godzilla's breath melts the electrical towers,
That was also going to be on my list.
that was done they built them out of wax.
Oh.
Yeah, and they put the studio lights on them, and they just and I think they made them thinner in those spots, and because of how thin they were, they built them there, right where they needed to be filmed, and then left. And all of a sudden, you can see that it starts to twist and then just collapses, because there's no other way that they could have done that back then.
Yeah.
The train scene, too, where he fucks that train up, they had one shot to do it, and when they filmed it, they almost had like the boom or some sort of a pole in it that wasn't supposed to be there. And the guy who filmed it was like, I'm fucked, I'm out of a job, like, this is the end of my career. And it's not visible or it's not there, and he like fucking just skirted a line. Also, the suit itself, when they first made it and they put the guy in it, there are holes in the neck. There's a bunch of different holes in the neck that kind of blend in, because the movie, when he does show up, is very dark when he's actually in the suit. So you don't really notice it, but he saw and breathed out of the neck holes. And the first suit, as soon as he got in it, he couldn't move. And it weighed like 200 and change. And he could not move at all. And eventually, after trying to move, the suit just collapsed. And they had to rebuild the suit out of, I want to say latex, like something that was lighter. But even though it went from like 200 and change, it was still like 100 and something pounds. And I'm not sure if it's this one, but I know there are other Godzilla movies where the actor inside of the suit would actually pass out if he was in there for any longer than 15 minutes.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
See, that's a thing that is pretty prevalent for, like, creature features, so to speak. Like, fucking even Spaceballs. Remember Spaceballs? The guy who played Pizza the Hut? Like, the original actor they got for that, they had to keep the pizza juicy, and the guy suffered heat stroke, like 15 minutes in. And so they had to, originally it was a stunt performer. And then the costumer who designed it was like, you know what? I can't make anyone else do this. I'm going to do it.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, they had to take breaks. Like, they had to, it was a mess. Very dangerous to actually do, and like risking life and limb for Pizza the Hut.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine the dedication for playing an icon.
Yeah.
Although,
and as time went on, the suits got better. And I want to say in 85 or 86, they started actually using some animatronics as well, for a lot of the close-ups.
Yeah. In the 99 one, the suit didn't kill anybody.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know we're not supposed to talk about it.
That movie he just doesn't even fucking look like, whatever.
Oh, man.
You know what bothers me about that movie? Like, he's the king of the monsters, but he lays eggs. So he's the queen, but the queen is Mothra? Like, whatever.
Godzilla said trans rights.
Yeah. That's awesome. Do you have anything you'd like to say before we kind of wrap?
I would like to emphasize that we've talked for a long-ass fucking time about this movie that came out a long-ass fucking time ago. And we could continue talking for another long-ass fucking time.
Absolutely.
About this movie.
Absolutely.
There is so much in this movie worth talking about, worth discussing. We'd love to hear what you have to say about it.
Leave a comment.
Yeah. Leave a comment, like this video, subscribe if you're not already subscribed.
Send it to your friends.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
You can find us on our social medias.
Oh, you're just closing it out.
That's just where my brain went, man. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. I was going to ask you what would you rate it and then close it out, but...
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're good.
Cut back to rating. I would rate this movie. I would rate this a 1 dubiously American Geiger counter out of 5.
Really?
Because I don't know. I was just pulling out a random thing. The one of the things we didn't get to talk about is there was one American coded character, and he was the one with the Geiger counter.
Where did you get that from?
Okay, so there's one character who handles a Geiger counter in the entire movie, right? Mm-hmm. Does he look Japanese to you?
I'd have to go back and watch it. My memory of it is a Japanese man, but most of the movie is Japanese men, so...
Fair. He's one of the only characters in the whole movie who wears glasses the entire time that obscure his eyes. Okay. And maybe I'm looking a little too much into this as like an intentional thing, but he doesn't have. Like, he has like a few lines talking about the dangers of radiation when they're on the island, but he like fully has a white person face.
Okay.
And then he has no more lines for the rest of the movie. He's just ominously there in the background with a Geiger counter. And this
was bothersome to you?
I'm sorry. I feel like my arbitrary use of a 1 to 5 scale. I should emphasize I love this movie. And I just pulled a thing. And I only bring him up because we didn't get a chance to discuss him. That's it.
So wait, what are you're giving this, like, if it wasn't a Geiger counter, it'd be 1 out of 5 stars.
That is what I said. It's not what I meant.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I want to give this, if we're going with stars, I would give it an 8 out of 10. Just because there are some weird continuity things that I didn't quite understand. And that might be on me for not being aware of how shit works.
It's a different culture from almost 100 years ago.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Like, and it's a culture that has changed a lot since.
Yeah.
And also, it's not my culture.
Yes. That's a big thing with this movie.
Yeah.
But isn't it nuts how this one movie, not from our culture, and as much as people won't say it, America is an echo chamber of itself, but how much this one movie inspired so many other things.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
you'll even see it as we go deeper into the series of films.
Okay.
Like, you'll just see, like, oh, shit, look at that. Like, this is very much influenced by King Kong, by all those earlier monster movies that I said at the beginning of the program. But, like, this, like, is very much... Even in fucking Jurassic Park 2, Godzilla was kind of a cult thing, very, very not known about. And there's a scene where Japanese businessmen turn around, see the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and go, oh, no, or we left Japan to get away from this. Like, and it was Spielberg saying, like, I know. Like, I know.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, it's to show how it's something like this inspired so many other ways, and how, like, Godzilla wasn't really known in the US at that time, but, like, Spielberg knew about it. And, well, like, he's also Spielberg's
a fucking nerd.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying, like, there's no doubt in my mind after knowing that some part of Godzilla inspired Jurassic Park. Whether you like Jurassic Park or not, like...
Oh, true.
You know what I mean? Like, there's so many different things about this. Dude, the fucking Powerpuff Girls. They fight that giant frog lizard thing in that one episode. I fucking love the Powerpuff Girls. I'm gonna make a fucking Powerpuff Girls podcast. Fucking love that shit.
It's such a good show.
But I would give this, probably for historic reasons, entertainment value, what they're saying in the movie, this is absolutely an 8 destroyed Tokyos out of 10 for me. Absolutely.
I confirm that. I would say 8 dubious American Geiger counter men out of 10.
I want to watch just that scene again, just to see, like, what you're getting out of that, because I took that as a very, like, this is going to kill us, but we're researching this because it's for the greater good.
Yeah, no, that man, he's in the entire movie almost. Like, he turns up when they're examining that giant footprint and they find the radiation. Mm-hmm. But he's in the background of, like, every group scene. Yeah. And, like, maybe, I don't want to give credit where it's not due, but it feels very much like he's there to represent the ever-present danger of radiation.
I need to watch this again because I didn't pick up on this. And if he's trying to if he's supposed to represent the ever-present radiation dangers and the ever-present kind of, this is the American, influence, and this is what we have to be afraid of, then yeah, probably. Like, I want to watch it again.
Yeah, no, he felt like a very subtle and very deserved dig at Americans. I'm gonna
at least look the scene up online just to get a feel for it, but yeah. We are going much longer than I thought we were. This is a fantastic movie.
Hell yeah. Watch it.
Please. I'm not going to say it's online for free, but if you look hard enough.
Oh no, we can say that. It's a part of the Criterion Collection. You can find it on archive.org.
Yes. It is for free.
You can download it for free, as a matter of fact.
Really?
Oh yeah. So if you ever find me on the street, just know I probably have Godzilla with me in my heart and in my pocket because it's on a thumb drive now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Watch it. It's a great movie. It's a part of cinematic history.
It is more well done than I think the time should have allowed it to be. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. This was a very, like, trial and error movie. And I think it shows in the best way possible.
Absolutely.
Like, it shows in this very, like... It's the first kaiju movie. They were setting the precedent. Say what you want about Gamera, say what you want about the Mothra films, the Rodan films, fine. This is where it starts.
I will say, a lot of the funny parts in this movie came from my brain inserting "Holy crap!"
Yeah, there was a whole lot of General Clinton just not around.
Yeah. All right.
So, like Marcus was saying earlier, follow us on everything.
Keep your eyes open for future projects we might be releasing.
Yes. 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, Lizard Brains is coming out.
Hell yeah, Lizard Brains. Lizard Brains. I might be doing some more shit in the future. I'll keep you all informed on that. Cool. Vince always has something cooking at all times. So keep your eyes open for that.
Thank you, Patreon. Thank you, Discord. Everything in the links below. Myself, Marcus, the show, everything Ghoulman related. Thank you for joining us. This is the first of many episodes. Every other week there will be another episode of Lizard Brains, and we're just gonna go from there.
Hell yeah. I'm so excited. Giant lizards are fucking awesome.
Cool. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
A Ghoulman Entertainment production.